Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel, and I want to talk about what I would consider the best era, thinking about it now, the best era for codices. Now, I've always thought fourth was the best, mainly, and I'll be honest with you, because it has the best ELDAR codex. But now I've come to read so many more. I've come to really appreciate 3rd edition / 3.5. Okay, 3rd edition / 3.5. Now, the reason I say it that way is because many codexes got rewritten for 3rd edition codex, for 3rd edition, and some got re-released. If I remember rightly, you had the Dark ELDAR got a re-release, and Chaos Space Marines got a re-release, and I think that's it actually. But a couple of codexes came out just for 3.5 as well, but not quite 4, and this was the Demon Hunter and Witch Hunter codexes, and these are just outstanding. The Witch Hunter one in particular is an outstanding codex. It's absolutely fantastic, and honestly, there hasn't been a Sisters of Battle codex that has beaten that since at all. And mind you, that was the last one until 8th edition, when they got their range refresh. And yeah, that codex is fantastic. It is a phenomenal codex, and I'm going to be speaking about why these codexes were my favourite, but I need to go back all the way back in time to 2nd edition. Now, see, I was just a young lad when 2nd edition dropped, and what I like, my favourite book in the 2nd edition book codex box, which is what I got, I remember getting it then, I remember I got it for my birthday, was the fact that you had 3 books. You had the Rule Book, obviously, the War Gear book, and the Codex Imperialis. Now, most people would say that the Codex Imperialis was the best bit because it had all the races in it, and the fluff, and the lore, and etc. But to me, the absolute best book was the War Gear book, because it was so technical. It was so enjoyable to read. I love reading the technicality of stuff, how things work, what weapons each race used, and how they differed between each Now, things what people don't remember, when back in 2nd edition, ORKS still used bolt guns. They were still considered bolt guns, not the slugger or the shooter. That didn't actually come until 3rd edition. It didn't. But having 2 guns, the slugger and the shooter, is absolutely funny. And I didn't actually get any real codexes except the ELDAR codex for 2nd edition. It wasn't until 3rd edition where I really started getting into the codexes and reading them. And then but there was this War Gear book which really sort of cemented one of my deepest loves for science fiction, and that is the technical side of science fiction, the side that not many people read about. It's in books and stuff like that, but it's that technical side, how the vehicles work, what they use, stuff like that. Oh, it interests me so much. I've always loved it. I mean, to me, it's never been about the more mystical side of things. Like with me, with Warhammer 40,000, this chaos and the warp, I still want to know how a Alaskan works. And for even in Star Wars, everyone goes, "Oh, I want to be a Jedi. I want to be a Sith." To me, I still want to fly X-wings. That would make my day. Just to fly X-wings. Wait until he's been the number one goat of Star Wars. And like things like this further increased my knowledge, my interest in science fiction. Like when I would watch Aliens, and I actually ended up trying to research when I remember I was younger, when I first managed to get the internet, how acid blood would actually work. Just because I watched Aliens and I started reading into their lore and how they worked, and there was just this absolute, I just love this. And back now we've taken a huge divergence back to Red Edition codexes and 50 because of this. They have some very technical knowledge of the species which they are talking about. Now, to me, the Orc Codex is a good one for this one, because there is absolutely 2 pages on orc physiology. It's great. They have a DNA gathered from an orc subspecies, spore dispersal, how it works, which is actually, they even have the skeletal system, skull structure, how an orcoid cocoon is made, It's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love this. You know? Like, the rejection rate from an orc for transplantation is 0.0023% of chance of tissue rejection. That is fantastic. That sort of stuff really pleases me, and I love reading about that. And again, this is just something that I absolutely adore. And then you have the 3rd edition Imperial Guard Codex, which had, all these regiments, which was something else. And now, one of the best things about this regiment was the Tangar regiment, which were absolutely naked all the time. And then you also had the Catonian regiment. Now, the interesting thing about the Catonian regiment was, obviously, Catonia is Horus's homeworld and was now been destroyed, unfortunately. But to have a regiment, the Imperial Guard regiment, which was still loyal, and honestly, the fact they got rid of it is such a shame. Shows that Horus couldn't even control his own men or his own homeworld. Was fantastic. I love this. And again, you had all this fantastic knowledge and lore, which was more technical than storytelling. And I just really like stuff like that. And then you had the ELDAR Codex. Again, you had so much information about the lore and how their society worked, and and one of the best ones is that how they would see people, humans, and some would see the humans. Eldar would see the humans as usurpers to their empire, and they believe that the galaxy is theirs. Others see them as, themselves as the Eldar, but that's what the Eldar would become. So they believe it's their honour, their duty, to make sure the humans don't do what the Eldari did. And then we get on to 3.5 codices. And yeah, these are pretty good as well. And now my two favourites, and my absolute favourite non-Eldar codex, is the Witch Hunter one. Now, one thing the Witch Hunter one did very well, and it was incredibly well done, was in fact they had this picture, and it's probably one of the most famous Sisters of Battle picture you'll ever see. And it's obviously of the sister standing there in her battle armour, and she's just got a bolt gun down, and that's it. And we've seen it so many times. It's a fantastic piece of artwork. But what made this so good was the way it was shown was that it had all the bits and pieces of how things work, like the power pack, the bolt gun, what type of bolt gun it was, what the tattoos meant, why her hair was white. It's just everything about it was like, this is her power armor. It's not as bulky, and why isn't it as bulky as the Space Marine armor? Because it doesn't have the connectors that to a black carapace that the Space Marines have. Sisters of Battle don't have that, so it didn't need it. But it also meant it had to be lighter because a Sister of Battle couldn't, run full whack in their armor, because they don't have the extra connections that the Space Marines have. Not because they're weaker, but literally because there's extra connections which the Space Marines have, which would make the power armor more efficient. And there was stuff like that was absolutely fantastic. And of course, in this one, you had the extra ability to. Oh yeah, the other thing was, which made it even better, which was one of my favourite bits, was the narrative side. Now, we don't see much narrative side in this, except Crusade rules and stuff like that. But it was like, why would Sisters of Battle fight different races? And some of it was sensible, like, this Imperial Guard commander, he had turned heretical and must be brought back to the light of the Emperor. Okay, that's fantastic, right? That's exactly what sort of thing you want to read. And then it had chaos, which would say, they're chaos. What reason do you need? Okay, brilliant stuff. And there's Demon Hunters one as well. And then we come to the next edition, which is the 4th edition. Third and fourth, but I do want to bring up the Eldari one, because this technical side. I love technical side of stuff. I really do. And the fact is, and I agree, that when you write about lore, and again, I want to see things like how things work. And in the 4th edition Eldari book, you had the layout of a craft world and how it worked and what bits and pieces mean. And I like this. And in the 4th edition Chaos Space Marine book, which is not too bad, you also have, though in not as detail as a sister battle one, how the Space Marines armor works and things like that. Like the Space Marine armor in the Chaos Space Marines is actually Mark III armor, which means all the armor they use, that's Mark III. And how the Dreadnought worked, like the improved exhausted stack, and the power scourge close, and there's just the way it's laid out. It's laid out as a very technical drawing, and that sort of thing I really like. It even has how they attacked, how the Red Corsairs attacked a Space Wolves battleship, strike cruiser, the Wolf of Fenris. And again, we'll go through it. The initial Red Corsairs started in the engine room. It moved. The Space Wolves engaged around the plasma chamber. Red Corsairs then board midsection. Horror Blackheart leads a third assault, goes to the bridge. Space Wolves counter-attack, moves forward in the engine room. Reserve squads, like that sort of stuff, and having it written out like a technical thing rather than just a whole story of lore just written about it is fantastic. But back to 3rd edition. You like the Space Marine one as well. Again, actually, let's talk about. I will talk about Space Marine, but let's talk about the supplement of the Craft World Eldar. Now, the Craft World Eldar was a fantastic supplement. Now, one of the best bits was the Eldrad Ulf one bit, because that brings Ynnari into it, and it was written exactly as you expect, like a diary excerpt of Eldrad, written as as it's meant to be, not as in a story, but as a Eldar would write an observation. Again, it's sort of thing. And now if we talk about the Space Marine one, the Space Marine one is also a very good book, because it was very technical. It was a book. It had lots of pictures and things about how things worked, how the power armor worked, how one of the best bits is always how. To me, is always how the organs work. It's one of my favourite bits I like reading. Anytime I get a new Space Marine Codex, literally the first thing I read is about the organ implantation. That's one thing I like reading about. Again, it's very technical. It's anatomy, which is something I studied quite a bit of. And there you go, and that was it. So this is why I honestly think 3rd edition, and I want to see more of this. And we have seen this again, this very technical side of storytelling in the last edition of last Tyrannid Codex. 9th edition Tyrannid Codex. We did see this very much written. That book is very written in a observationist way. It's been observed on how Tyrannids work, mainly because we can't speak Tyrannid or have anyone translate for us. So yes, this is what I like. Now, that's it. That's why I like the 3rd edition Codex. I like the technical side of it. I really enjoy that. That to me is just one of the best ways of ever reading this sort of stuff. And it's any sci-fi I look into, I always like looking into this technical side. Even if I take a passing interest in the science fiction, like Star Trek, I want to know how the shit works. I want to know how the warp drive works. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on why 3rd edition codexes are my very, 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 very favorite, and why I like technical stuff inside science fiction rather than just blah 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 stories. Okay, I like lore, but to me technical is always better. Link down below to Wayland Games if you wish to save money on Warhammer, or even codexes, but they don't have any. If you want to read about some cool sci-fi stuff, there's Forbidden Planet as well. And of course my comic and my merchandise and Patreon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you all again soon.